Hey, I'm KO Slam. This is the first time that I've done a video where you're actually seeing my face. Usually you're seeing my fingers try to make a sound on a electronic instrument and turn it into something that hopefully sounds okay. But it's been a roller coaster and it's been quite an experience trying to learn music up to this point. It's been about a month. And so I thought I would share kind of the experience of being a beginner, learning this stuff from the beginning, kind of take a snapshot of what it's like. And I thought this could be helpful to those of you that are also trying to learn music or you're at a similar stage to me. I think we should first talk about what drew me into this, drew me into wanting to create music, wanting to learn how to do this on my own. And I'm guessing this is similar for a lot of you, is that you see other people creating music, you see videos on YouTube, online of musicians, of music producers creating awesome stuff. And you're like, wow, that is so sweet. That would be really cool if I could do that or knew how to do that as well. So the video I saw for sure was Ari at Home. You got to check out this guy if you haven't seen him. He has like this whole live setup where he has all these electronic instruments, a looper and a piano hooked up and strapped up to him. And he just goes around New York City just like playing stuff live. And then he'll have like someone come and rap on it. So you should definitely check out some of his videos. But his skill and just how he's able to just kind of create something on the spot was really inspiring to me. And I was like, ooh, this would be really cool if I could. Not that I think I could do something exactly like that, but just kind of inspired me to I want to know how this stuff works, what this music production thing is all about. The other person I've seen that was very inspiring, maybe some of you have seen this video. It's a video that went somewhat viral, a video by Red Means Recording. I think it's like a 7-year-old video where he's on the OP1 device and he creates this just really great song right in front of you, like in the video. And it's a very cool thing that makes you just interested. And the OP1 device, I think, has that appeal where it's just like a very cool, well-designed technology for making music. It kind of makes you want to get one, which I've not done that, and I've decided I don't want to. But it still kind of piques your interest. And you're like, okay, how does this thing work? How could I potentially learn to do some of these things? So there's obviously lots of experiences like this that you have when you see someone do cool things, amazing things. You're like, oh, I wonder if I could do that. But usually you don't take that extra step to actually go and try to learn that thing and do that thing. So for me, I kind of thought about it for a while. For a while, I was like, that's probably a bad idea. It's like this whole thing to jump into, to learn all these new skills. Is that something I actually want to do? So I kind of sat on that, let it simmer for like a week or two before I kind of kept on thinking you know what, this is something I want to do. It could be like a lifelong hobby where I just learn to slowly do this stuff more and more, and just kind of a fun thing, like a fun experience to learn how to make music and create stuff. So my experience with creating music or in music so far is very little. And that's, I think, the other thing is this whole music process, it really seemed magical to me. I just didn't get how it worked. When I heard music, I didn't know the different pieces that were coming together, and I didn't know the different layers and the different instruments and the beats and just what had to come together to make it happen. And so it started out to be this very unknown thing to me. I didn't even know what had to come together to make it happen. So my experience is just very little. I did play in the band in high school for 5 years, junior high, and then some into high school, I think my sophomore year of high school. And I played the baritone. But, so I have a tiny bit of experience there, but I really did not know, even though I played the baritone and I was in band, I don't think I took my baritone home to actually practice once, other than maybe my first year. And then I was just I'm just kind of just doing this just to do this. I would just kind of learn the songs in class. I never actually really got good at it or knew what was happening, what I was doing. And since then, I've basically lost all my knowledge. I knew how to read some sheet music from band, but I kind of lost all that and didn't really know anything, and definitely didn't know what sounds come together to make a good song, to make good music. How I started the process of learning it was then the old great YouTube Academy. I'm sure this is how a lot of you guys start things. It is amazing how on the internet, especially when you kind of step into a new sphere that you know nothing about, there's just so much information online of how you can learn this stuff and figure things out. And there's just a wealth of knowledge, and it's really awesome. So I really, kind of started out with YouTube, learning about music, what things kind of come together. And that's when I found what I guess is called the DAWless world, which is, like these physical devices, kind of like the OP1 I talked about earlier, or like the KO operator, which I've made some songs on, or the OPZ, which I've made some songs on. And that was very interesting to me because in my day job, I'm a software developer, so I'm on a computer a lot. I'm doing things on the computer all the time. And so kind of this idea to have a device that takes me away from the computer where I can make music and do things like that was something I was like, okay, I think this makes a lot of sense for this to be how I start to learn music. The other thing that I found with it that I think is actually great that I didn't really know at the time, but it was a great way to kind of learn as a beginner, is with some of these devices like the KO, is you actually have a lot of limitations. So on the KO, you only can do 4 tracks. So you can only have like 4 sounds going on at once. And so that limits you to like what you can do, what kind of music you can make, which I think is actually good as a beginner, because when you're starting out, it can be a little overwhelming to like put all these different sounds together. And when you only have 4 tracks, you're like, all right, I gotta put my beat down with the bass drum and the kick, and then okay, I can have some bass, I can have like one melody going, maybe have some other extra sounds for the 4th track. But that's kind of it. And you're kind of limited in trying to make some good music just with that. Where once you start adding, you could do anything, I find that I think there's a lot more mistakes that you can start to make. And actually, even with the OPZ here, I actually did that a little bit. I don't know if in one of my songs, I think the pitch is off. I don't even know what I did wrong. I put some sounds together that just did not really go well together. And I still published it. I still put the song out there, but there's just something off about it, and I don't even know what I did wrong. But I think that kind of shows that you can do more with this, and with that comes more learning, which is great, of course, but also more area for you to make mistakes and make sounds and music that actually doesn't sound that good. So I started out making songs with the KO. So I bought this, it's like $100. So it's a pretty cheap thing, kind of easy way to get started. And I just started trying to make songs, and I posted them here on YouTube. So up to this point, I've created like 8 songs. I've posted all of those here to YouTube. So maybe you've checked that out, or you can go check those out if you want to see what a beginner sounds like that doesn't really know what they're doing. And I was just trying to make some good sounds, some good music with that. It really helps, obviously, to have samples. This is a sampler, so you can take some sounds from other people, other musicians that know what they're doing. They've created some good sounds that are going to work together, and then just try to make something with it, try to make a beat with it. And so that's what I started out trying to do, making some songs on the KO, and then I made some songs on the OPZ. And that was a good way to kind of dive into it, start learning, figuring it out. And of course, using some different YouTube videos for people. There's some good like tutorials specifically for the KO or the OPZ that show people making songs on these devices and can kind of help you learn some of that process. So I was having fun learning how to make songs on these kind of simple devices, but what I quickly kind of ran into was just knowing that I really knew nothing about musical theory and how to make notes that go together and what kind of actually sounds good going together. And so in my mind, what seemed to make sense to me is learning the keyboard and learning the piano, because from what I was seeing just in other people making music, it feels like the keyboard and the piano is kind of like the core like base of like all music almost. Like obviously you can do a lot on a piano, but just knowing how to play a piano and the music theory that kind of comes with that, with knowing scales and what notes go together, that just seemed like, okay, this seems like something that makes a lot of sense to me for electronic music, which is what I was wanting to try to get better at making electronic music. And the keyboard kind of seemed like the base of that. So I decided to start learning piano. I did some searching around to see what was the best way for an adult to learn piano. And the book that I kept seeing get recommended is Alfred's Basics Adult Piano Course. So I bought that book. It's like $16-18 or something like that. And I just started going through it all by myself, all on my own. It actually is helpful that my wife knows how to play piano. She's played like 13 years of her life. So she's been kind of helping me every once in a while, but for the most part, just been going through this book by myself. And I think I'm around halfway through the book now, and it's been really helpful. It's really helpful to have a book and a course that you can just follow, just kind of go through, and it just kind of teaches you, where you definitely can get lost in kind of like the YouTube world or the online world of just like searching for all these things, jumping from thing to thing, and not having like a great linear path to learning. So this book really helped with that and helped with starting to pick up piano. And I was actually surprised how quickly I started to kind of pick it up, and like I can actually kind of play a thing or two with using both hands, which is it kind of crazy in my mind of like doing, a chord with one hand and then doing a melody with another hand, and like your fingers are moving at the same time. It really is kind of mind-boggling, and it's tricky. It's tricky for sure, but I feel like I'm starting to get it, and I do think that knowing piano and the keyboard and notes and scales and things like that is definitely going to be helpful in me kind of figuring out this whole music thing. So it's been fun to learn, and I've enjoyed it. One problem I found that I kept kind of running into as a beginner that maybe you're running into is kind of this idea, and this is kind of true in all kinds of learning, I think, is the more you learn, the more you realize, oh, there's like a ton of stuff I don't know, and it can be overwhelming. You just kind of learn there's all these things to it. People study music, they go to college for music, they learn music and do it for years, for decades. And so just getting started, it can be overwhelming, and then you just kind of find out like there's all this stuff that I don't know. And I think that also brings up another thing that was hard for me to figure out is like, what direction do I even want to go with this? Like there's so many different kinds of music. There's all these different music genres, and I didn't even know like what the different genres really are. Like what makes a hip hop song, or what makes house a house song, or techno. Yeah. So it's like, I don't even know what these things are. And I'm kind of figuring out like, what skills do I need to know to make that kind of music? And that's actually kind of a hard question to answer. And I'm still actually struggling to answer some of that, and still kind of struggling to figure out what kind of music I want to make, and then the skills that will help me make that. How I've answered this so far is basically finding one of your favorite musicians, artists, music that you like listening to, and then kind of figuring out, okay, what genre is that? And figuring out what skills and things do I need to know to make that music. So for me, for example, I really liked this very indie musician, electronic music maker called Insane Like, and he made stuff on YouTube. I started listening to him maybe like 10 years ago, and I've since kind of dropped off listening to him, but he has some really cool kind of electronic house music songs, and I kind of just went back and started listening to those and just really liking his music, and kind of deciding like, okay, this is the kind of music I want to learn how to make. And that then did kind of reconfirm that I think knowing piano and keyboard is going to be really beneficial in that, because if you listen to his music, he's got lots of chords, he's got lots of sounds, he is using lots of synthesizers. So I'm going to have to figure out, if I'm going to have to make my own synth sounds, or if I can like use other people's and stuff like that. But yeah, so going back and kind of finding a musician that I kind of want to make similar music to was very helpful in kind of directing me towards, all right, this is, the kind of stuff I need to learn. These are the skills I need to have. These are maybe the tools that I need to use to recreate that kind of stuff. And that brings us to kind of the next rabbit hole, which is the tools. I didn't know this. Like I started out with the KO. I just started out with this simple thing. But, as you follow things on the internet, as you follow different YouTube musicians, you'll probably learn that there's this huge rabbit hole of the different kinds of tools and things that you can use to create music. And it's actually really confusing, because you're like, okay, what should I do? Which direction should I go? And then you're like, okay, this is expensive. Like, should I buy this? Should I buy that? You kind of feel like once you're putting your money down, that you're actually like putting yourself in a direction that you can't reverse very easily. And I will say there's definitely like some negatives of this, of just every music making, instrument making, electronic instrument making company is trying to get your attention, and they want you to buy their thing, obviously. And at first I was kind of going down this rabbit hole being like, okay, I think I want to get that. I think I want to get that. I want to do that. But kind of then learning like there's a gajillion ways to make music with all these kind of devices and things. And you don't really need all of them. You don't really need all this stuff. I was kind of first thinking, as I talked about earlier, like going the dollish route of not using my computer to make music. Instead, like having like physical devices that I think would be kind of cool to make music on. But also just seeing that you are very limited to that. So that's the downside. You're very limited to the sound you can make and the kind of music you can make. Or you just have to buy tons of stuff, tons of physical electronic gadgets and things to make this music. And it's like, that's a lot of money to kind of build out those things. And so for me, I kind of decided, you know what, I think it's actually a better path to go, get Ableton or get a DAW to start making music in. And you can still, if you want that physical experience, you can still get like a MIDI controller where you're still like making the beats and the music on a physical device, and it goes into your computer. But just kind of seeing that you have way more options with easily getting samples, easily getting these different loops from different musicians, or software synths and software plugins or tools are just way cheaper than getting the physical things. And so I kind of decided that for a beginner, kind of going the DAW route is actually probably a better way to go. And if I want to get more into the DAW stuff later, then I'll know more at that point to be able to get the right DAW-less equipment to be able to do that. That kind of reminds me of what I was talking about a little bit ago of like the different directions you can take. And another decision I kind of came across was, how do I want to learn piano? And kind of learning that there's a ton of ways to learn piano, and actually getting really, really good at piano can take forever. Like there's so many skills and things within piano and the keyboard that you can learn. And so I found some really helpful content online. Maybe I'll share one of those YouTube videos about how to learn piano as a music producer. And that was really helpful to kind of open my eyes to, you don't need to know all that stuff. You don't need to know the details of how everything works. You just need to know kind of some of the details, some of the skills that will help you in your goals of what you're trying to do in making music as a music producer. And kind of what they kind of talked about and highlighted is the skill of being able to improvise, kind of like what they do in jazz music. And so that's kind of the direction I think I want to go towards, versus kind of the classical way of learning piano where you can read any music and just play it and just do all this classical music. That's not actually that valuable in making your own music. And I actually kind of found that there's a lot of music producers that can play the piano really well and they can use it to make unique new music, but they don't even know how to read music themselves, which I thought was very interesting. So that kind of shows maybe which direction makes sense. And it really depends on you and what you want to do. And so I think after I kind of go through this adult piano book, that I'll maybe more so lean towards trying to learn how to improvise, try to learn how to like play music by ear to be able to hear different notes and be able to recreate the chords on the piano. And I think those skills are seems to be a lot more valuable for the music producer. So that has pretty much been my journey up to this point, some of my learnings through the process of this last month, and it's been a lot of fun. But that kind of brings us to and I've been thinking about this a lot as I've been going through this process of, what is my goal with learning all this music? Like, what is even the point? Kind of my problem typically, because I am an entrepreneur, I own my own business in the software world. I kind of, whenever I have a new hobby or a new idea of doing things, I have this problem, I think, of trying to always turn that thing into a business, something that can make money, so that then I can enjoy doing that hobby and doing that thing to make money. And so I did think a little bit about that, like, okay, how could I turn this music making stuff into a business for me of some sort? And I'm just like, no, don't do that, because whenever you do that, it kind of makes the hobby not as fun. It becomes this thing that you have to do to make money instead of just this thing that you enjoy doing and learning and creating. And so that's what I want music to be, at least for me right now. Like that's the whole goal, is like just having fun, enjoying creating music. But at the same time, I can't have no goals with like what I want to do with it. And so that's what's been kind of challenging for me, is to like figuring out, okay, what should my goal be so that I can make progress and grow and learn. And so far, what I've been kind of doing that I think has been like the goal is just like daily putting in the reps, basically. So I've been doing 30 minutes of piano learning a day, and that's been kind of just a good goal. Like that's a goal in itself. It's not like there's a result that I'm trying to get to. It's just, can I do it every day for 30 minutes? Or, just basically try to make a song make something that sounds good and just post it to the KO Slam channel just to put some reps in of making music. So that's kind of been my goal. And maybe I could even have a better goal of like once a week, make a new song and upload it to YouTube and just kind of do that to keep accountable to learning and growing. Because I also realize that this kind of has to be for fun and for enjoying it, because it's really hard to make money in music and doing your own music or becoming a music producer and like competing in that whole world. Like it's just a whole nother thing. And as I look at kind of the landscape, AI is coming. Like if you've seen AI, like AI tools, AI can make better music than I can. Like AI is getting really good at this stuff. And so I think it's going to increasingly get harder for music producers and people making music to try to make a living from this stuff. Like I was looking at a stat that this was back in 2023. There were over 100,000 songs published to Spotify, new songs per day. That's a ton of songs. And it's 2 years later. I'm guessing it could be like twice that now. So that's really hard for you to make music that gets out there and that people are finding and stuff like that. So it's a very competitive world. And so if I was making music just for, I don't know, trying to make money with it or just trying to get people to see it and just caring too much about that, like I think I would find myself in kind of a bad place. And so I keep on having to remind myself, like I'm doing this to learn about it, to have fun in the learning process, to enjoy making good music. And just post about it on here just to kind of keep me accountable. And so that's kind of my goal. Hope that this video was interesting and helpful to you if you're a beginner in some way. I've enjoyed kind of sharing my journey with it, and I'll continue to get better at this and make more songs and post them here. And if you enjoy those, that's cool too. I'll see you in another one.